Should you buy Battlefield 2042? I managed to get access to the 10-hour early trial of Battlefield 2042 on Game Pass, and I'm really happy I did because, geez, I don't even know where to start. Welcome to my Battlefield 2042 review. Battlefield 2042 was delayed a few weeks back due to criticism of bugs, performance, and well, basically the overall experience from the Battlefield beta was less than stellar and irritated a lot of people. 2042 was supposed to be the FPS game that finally kills Warzone for a while, or at very least compete with it, and it's the first modern Battlefield game since 2015. So expectations were high. Marketing was looking great, and then we played the beta, and a lot of us were disappointed. So what's the experience of Battlefield 2042 right now? Are the bugs fixed? Is the performance better? Is there even a good amount of content? Well, I'm mixed on all of those questions, but let me explain. As I booted up Battlefield 2042 and was treated to a cool little culmination of its story and the world events leading to the war we fight, I felt a sense of dread come over me. That this is a multiplayer only game and the beta was atrocious. I was treated to some story and now I want more of it, but we will never get more. This dread stuck with me till I searched for my first Battlefield 2042 game during this 10-hour trial. And what happened in this game?
Our forces have secured Sector Charlie. Good going. Mission failed. We'll get them next time.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun and was my first game, but unfortunately it goes downhill from here. Battlefield 2042 is just average. Everything about it feels rushed, but it is at a level that is at least playable, but doesn't feel finished. Performance is pretty poor and the bugs are just everywhere. Hit detection feels completely random, and Battlefield Portal, which was a mode that was really hyped, just didn't get me really excited when I played it, but it's good enough. Let's start with bugs though. The bugs I encountered were hardly game breaking and never really caused my PC to crash or anything like that, but they are there and they're very noticeable. Helicopters and jets still fly around skipping frames, and the destruction of those vehicles is a complete mess, causing a lot of confusion and will get you killed. There's some serious lag issues as well, which got really irritating after a while and even kicked a lot of people out of their games and unable to find a match. Now I mentioned the lag and the inability to find matches because this is just the 10-hour trial of Battlefield 2042. The majority of people, probably like yourself, haven't even bought the game yet, and we're talking millions of people. So the launch of Battlefield 2042 is going to be a disaster when it comes to lag and matches in general, mark my words. Bridges glitching makes it impossible to cross, trying to exit a helicopter only to get trapped inside of it with someone else trying to get out. All these little glitches slowly build up over time, and eventually I just gave up trying to be immersed because it just isn't possible with the current state of Battlefield 2042. What about performance? Well, my rig isn't the most modern. I run a 1070 with an i7 4790K, but I was averaging about 50 FPS at 1440p, so it's not terrible, but on that note, I have no idea how last gen consoles will perform with Battlefield 2042 at 60 FPS. I just don't think it would be possible to have a consistent experience on those consoles in its current state, unless the downgrades that they've mentioned really do help, like the reducing of map size, but I really don't know if the map size is actually the problem. Now, a real positive of Battlefield 2042 is its maps, is what I'd like to say, but this isn't even a full positive for me. The maps are big, very big, and I can't believe I'm saying this, but they just fall into the open world gameplay trap. The maps are huge, but most of the map is just useless. Nothing is out there unless it's on a flag that you have to capture. Also, the destruction aspect of it is extremely disappointing. The giant hurricane is awesome the first time you play the game, when it actually happens, but during my time I only saw it a handful of times. However, I just don't think it was worth it if we had to trade environmental destruction for this random event. I don't know what happened with Battlefield, but the destruction element has just disappointed me for years at this point. I know a lot of people will disagree with me on that, but from my experience, I spent so long just trying to get to the action and often caused me just to stick with one half of the map each game, because when I do go exploring and try to flank enemies, I end up just getting 10 kills during the entire match. So for me, the maps are just too big, or at least there isn't enough to do in those maps. However, the maps are gorgeous a lot of the time, and the sections of the maps that actually have stuff to interact with and mess around with are terrific. The level of verticality in pretty much all of the maps is stunning. It's so much fun jumping off a giant cliff to skydive down to an enemy flag, wipe out their straggler and cap that point. One map had a massive building with 3 different accessible floors, underground, first floor and roof, so you can have like half a team in that building alone fighting it out on each floor. That's a sign of a good map design, but it's just unfortunate that most of the maps have so much dead space, which ultimately harms the pacing of these matches if you don't have a squad and a vehicle with you 24/7. So far, all I've talked about is the mode Conquest, which is basically Battlefield's classic mode, but how is the big mode, the one that's been marketed like crazy, Battlefield Portal? If you're enjoying this video, smash that like button and maybe subscribe. Thank you. Now, I stress this in all of my reviews, please check out other reviewers other than me to decide if you want to buy a game, because I have a feeling I'll be in the minority when it comes to my opinion on Battlefield Portal. Let me just say this, the majority of fun and quality that comes from Battlefield Portal will always come from the community's creativity, so let me stress that before I say anything else. So the modes I got to play was Battlefield 3, Bad Company 2, and Battlefield 1942. And obviously they've only ported over certain maps so far, but I'm hoping they're going to add some more. Battlefield 3 maps have been nailed to a T, and the Bad Company maps are also great, although I can't speak on how faithful they are as I never got to play those games. There are a lot of issues though. First off, class customization in Portal. For whatever reason, they chose to keep the on-the-fly weapon system, only you can't actually use it in the game, which confused the hell out of me because they don't explain how you customize your weapons in specifically Portal. You actually have to go through the on-the-fly system in the main menu, but you have to find that menu, and then there's another menu where you can access your weapons, but you can't customize your weapons from that menu. It's confusing as hell and I don't get it. So the UI is genuinely just terrible for Portal, without a doubt. Secondly, Portal is great, but it sounds and runs way worse than any of the games it actually recreates. My main problem with Portal is that it's the best part of Battlefield 2042, and yet the majority of us have already played these maps with these weapons over 10 years ago. The fact the best piece of content is recycled content from previous Battlefield games shows how much of a downgrade the base game of Battlefield 2042 truly is. The customization of Portal will definitely keep this game alive, but I do think once everyone has played some games on Caspian Border, etc, and they realise the performance of 2042 is just awful, they'll just start up the original games on PC. That's PC players though. I can't tell you how happy I am being able to go back to Battlefield 3 from time to time, even with the awful suppression and blue tint. Also, Caspian Border has this really awful lens flare effect when you look close to the sun. It's really distracting and genuinely annoying, but that's just a nitpick for me. I think Battlefield Portal has a lot of potential, but if the performance issues aren't fixed, many players will just go back to the old games just like they did after Battlefield 5 launched. Battlefield 4 is still great, by the way. You should still, if you're not playing that still, what are you doing, man? Go back to it, it's great fun. The community section of the game mode right now is being used for XP glitches to level up quicker, but there are some servers that looked fun that I never really got a chance to play around on because I was so focused on the main section of the game, so I could get my thoughts out there before anyone actually buys the game and wastes the money. If you do play it, I think you'll be able to tell the difference of the weapons despite how they look, and overall I was quite happy in Portal, which sucks because the base game just doesn't come anywhere near it. I would much rather play a match of Bad Company 2, having every building being demolished while I'm in it, rather than playing a 40-minute game and see one tornado for 5 minutes. That's kind of how I sum up Portal. It's kind of a double-edged sword for this game, because a lot of people are going to ditch the main game and just go straight for Portal after a few games. Hazard Zone, I really didn't get a chance to play due to the server issues, so there's that. I'm sure it's loads of fun, but that mode doesn't really look like my kind of thing anyway. Gunplay is not great, and there are overpowered SMGs at the moment. Hit registry is awful, but when it works, it does feel good. However, the kill time is a bit too fast for my liking. So is there plenty of content? Yes, there is. There's a decent amount of maps and weapons as well as vehicle choice. However, it's the little things that let Battlefield 2042 down. Bugs are bad and performance issues are pretty awful, but I could forgive them if everything else was top tier, but it just isn't. There are so many features missing at the moment that other games had at launch. I didn't see a rush mode apart from this new mode called Breakthrough, but I don't necessarily want to play Breakthrough. I want to play classic Rush, you know, where you arm the bomb and you got to protect the bomb and you got to defuse the bomb. It's intense, rather than just having to do Conquest again, but it's in one direction. I'd much rather have Rush back. Basic customization is a pain in the ass because of how bad the UI is. The UI is a mess and really overly complicated, like I mentioned. For example, if you want to customize your loadouts, you need to click on the operator section and not the gun section, which just makes no sense to me. Then the customization UI is pretty awful as well, which is also really overly complicated. It's way more confusing than it ever has been, and I don't know why it is. But you know, bad UI isn't going to kill the game. Lack of customization is, and this new operator system is genuinely terrible. I understand the concept of these operators, especially from a monetization standpoint, but overall they just impact the game way more negatively than positively. These operators have their own specific abilities and stuff like that, which makes the traditional assault, engineer, support and scout classes pretty much pointless, so you can access all the weapons no matter what class you pick. Not only that, but now you can only equip one gadget. So guess what? If you want to play engineer, you now need to choose whether you want to be able to use your traditional rocket launcher like an RPG, you know, the one thing that separates you from the other classes, or you can equip your repair tool. You can no longer equip both because of these operators basically making the repair tool dead on arrival, because who's going to pick the repair tool over the rocket launcher? It's obviously going to be used a lot more by the majority of people because we all want those sick helicopter shots, you know what I mean? This is the same across all classes, so medic, scout, etc. The lack of customization for gadgets, you have to pick one gadget. Who thought that was a good idea? The decision overall was just a major step back. I haven't mentioned the terrible audio. You can barely hear where enemies are coming from because you can't tell how far away they are, and the footsteps are so loud sometimes you just end up shooting your team hoping it's an enemy. The lack of single player content, and the fact EA is charging up to £70 for the normal edition of Battlefield 2042 on new consoles just leaves a bitter taste in my mouth like my dog at 2 AM. Especially with how poor the optimization is and clear lack of polish. Battlefield 2042 is in a terrible state right now, and I reckon it needs another year to really iron out the various issues like bugs, performance, the UI, as well as the overall sound design, along with so many other issues that I just don't have time to talk about. I don't want to stretch this video out, so I'll end it with this. Should you buy Battlefield 2042? Yes, in a year's time. Thank you for watching.